4, 3, 2, 1.
Sir, to start. Sir.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for being here with us. It's a wonderfully rainy day in Mumbai, where I am, and I believe the monsoons have finally reached various parts of India, which is always good news for the most part. These strange times have brought about huge changes in our lives, in the way we work, in the way we operate, but it has also brought about certain opportunities. For instance, there are many, many more professionals who have taken to sharing their thoughts and experiences online. So that's a huge opportunity for all of us. These times also offer an especially good chance to do some learning and to gain some new perspectives. It is with this in mind that we bring to you the Objective Students Career Conclave 2020 by HP and Intel in association with Better Photography. This is a conclave where some of the most experienced professionals across industries address students, informing them about their fields, their secrets of success. In the sessions ahead, across the next 2 weeks, the Objective Students Career Conclave will be covering a large number and a large variety of topics, and not just about photography, but on everything from writing books to having a great on-screen presence. But just to set the pace for today, we have a legend with us. Shantanu Sheorey is the director and chief mentor and the founder of the One School Goa and Sirji.Pro. But he's much more than that. He is also one of India's most prolific advertising, fashion, and commercial photographer and an ad filmmaker. Excuse me. But just before we bring Shantanu on board to address you, we have a short talk by HP. Once again, thank you for being with us. So before we move into the talk with Shantanu, please let me introduce from HP, who will be speaking about the HP Pavilion series of laptops. From HP is Arjun. Well, these are extremely well-designed laptops that fit many requirements. But before we get into the main speaker, let me ask Arjun to explain some of these very special features about the HP Pavilion laptops. Arjun, over to you.
Thank you, Madhwan. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for taking out your time out of your busy schedule and attending this webinar. I hope you all are doing good and safe. My name is Arjun Sharma, and today I'm going to speak about HP's recently launched Pavilion X360 14. So let me just make you go through Pavilion X360. As the name says X360, HP Pavilion is a convertible machine, which means you can convert this machine, you can use this machine as a tablet, or you can use it as a regular notebook. And as it goes X360, you get various modes to use this notebook. Number one, stand mode, which is perfect to watch movies and video conferencing. Number two, tent mode, to play games and have all your applications on your fingertips. Number three, notebook mode or regular mode, or you can call a clamshell mode. You can do all your work on your regular notebook mode, or you can be productive on your notebook mode. Lastly, you have a tablet mode to browse on the go. Even with the tablet mode, you have an option to use a stylus. With the help of the stylus, instead of typing, Simply you can write anything, and then you have a feature where it converts your all writing into text, which is very helpful in making notes. Even with the help of stylus, you can even edit your PDF file, you can highlight anything in your PPT files. So all those things can be done with the help of stylus. Pavilion 14 comes in a 14-inch diagonal full HD display with a very narrow bezel design. In a 14-inch screen, the weight of the machine is just 1.5 kg. It is a very light, sleek, handy and very fashionable notebook. Plus, Pavilion 14 has also gone through vibration test. So it is a very robust machine, yet in a very beautiful design. Believe me, carrying this machine is like a jewel. Coming to the next most impressive part, performance. Performance of Pavilion 14 X360. Pavilion 14 comes with the latest 10-gen processor for fast processing, with the latest DDR4 memory, and the best part of the machine is that you have an option of a dual storage, which means you can have both solid state drive as well as your normal hard disk on the machine. With the help of the solid state drives, your system booting will become faster, and with the help of the regular hard disk, you can expand your storage. Next, coming to the audio. The audio brand which has been used, it's Bang& Olufsen. HP with audio by Bang & Olufsen delivers the rich, authentic, and it's a very crystal clear sound, and it gives you a truly powerful audio experience. And it comes along with the HP Wide Vision HD Cam. Wide Vision HD Cams gives you a better experience in video call and conference calls. The most importantly, the battery of Pavilion X360 14. Pavilion 14 comes with a fast charge where it charges your laptop 0 to 100 in approx 1 hour 15 minutes and gives you a 9 hours of battery backup. HP Pavilion 14's batteries are rigorous charge discharge tested for strong battery life. And lastly, but not the least, Pavilion 14 is packed with all the ports. Pavilion 14 comes with one SD card slot, two USB 3.1, one Type-C for fast transferring of data, one HDMI, and one headphone microphone combo. And Pavilion 14 also comes with an option of a SIM card slot, which means you don't have to carry a dongle along with you. Simply, you can insert the SIM and access the internet. So you can have a seamless connectivity and you can have your internet everywhere. So that's all from my side, and would request you to please go and explore Pavilion 14 X360 at HP World Store. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Our main speaker for today is Shantanu Sheorey. Shantanu is, as many of you may know, is legendary. He's the director and chief mentor at the One School Goa and Sirji.Pro. In today's webinar, Shantanu will be discussing the scope of photography as an important visual communication tool, what it takes to be a professional photographer, and how the new educational policies emphasize vocational academic studies. Well, the additional thing that Shantanu will share with us is a glimpse into his life, which is something very, very exciting. Let me speak a little bit more about Shantanu. He is a legend in commercial fashion advertising photography and in ad filmmaking. For over 3 decades, he has created several print campaigns, over 900 ad films, some of which happen to be some of the best remembered campaigns till today. Let me give you a couple of examples. He was the one who created the original Taste the Thunder campaign with Salman Khan, the Only Vimal campaign with Viv Richards, Ravi, Shastri, and Allan, and the famous Garden Vareli saree campaigns, all of them highlighting a strong visual sense as an artist. He studied at the JGA School of Art, and he is currently the director and chief mentor of the One School Goa, which he founded. Among all the photographers that I happen to know, despite Shantanu's seniority, despite all the experience and despite his years and years of experience, I know that Shantanu is also the youngest at heart and almost like a teenager. He's that excited and that passionate about his work. Those of you who are joining us through the pmglive.in microsite, you can post your questions to Shantanu using the Q&A tab. Shantanu shall answer your questions after his presentation. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Shantanu. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone, and Madhavan, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Madhavan has said it all, but let me take you through some interesting thoughts. So, what we decided is, while I'm talking, and so that we don't make it very boring for you, we thought we'll divide it into 3 parts. First part, I'll just take you through a slideshow. I'll speak over my slideshow about all my work through the years, and it's a short, 7-10 minute thing. And then what I will talk about is school, the teaching methods, and what's the new educational policy all about, and how it's going to empower the youth who want to get into visual communication, which is mainly photography and digital filmmaking. And thirdly, of course, we are going to be talking about the future of photography. What happens, this pandemic and all these things, and we've been locked at home. We ran a few very interesting photo challenges and all that. That's given us a clue on what's happening and what people want. We've been, talking to a lot of youth and youngsters all across the country through this kind of medium, and it's been damn interesting as to how things have been happening and what the future of photography is. So I think without wasting too much time, let me quickly take you through a presentation, just a few slides, and I'll talk over them, where it all began and what it's all about. So just give me a second. I'm just going to put my screen on, and yeah, okay. Sure. Give me a second. Just yeah, I think my screen is on now. Yeah, good. So yeah, I started off out of School of Art, the JJ School of Art, where I went to. Actually, I'm trained as a graphic designer, a graphic artist. And while I was in my final years, there's this itch of traveling. And as soon as I finished, I just decided that before I get busy in my commercial life, before I step into it, let me see if I can travel and get some interesting stories going. So I went to this wonderful thing called Rath Yatra at Jagannath Puri, and you can see the crowds over there, and that's what excited me, crowds. And I had originally thought that I will become a storyteller through a journalistic approach, and that's why this story. So here are some images, and mind you, these are all shot on celluloid. That means on film. There was no digital, and the year was 79-80. So yeah, so these are all shot with some of them are shot on a film called Kodachrome, which was a legendary film those days, and of course some on Kodak Ektachrome. Those days we had not yet stepped into the Fuji film thing, which of course it finally took over, and it is a phenomenal film. So here are some portraits, people. So what I learned from this is how to react to situations, because I got beaten up over here and in this crowd while I was taking photographs, because somebody came and told me that this festival you cannot shoot, and you cannot shoot Lord Jagannath and all that thing. But being a young maverick those days, like this picture was one of the legendary pictures, and I wanted Jagannath ji inside the chariot. So what do? I did a long exposure. I'm standing at least 300 meters away with a telephoto lens, and there is a gentleman sitting inside with my flash over there, and I had a torch in my hand, and I just put that on a slow shutter speed, and I flashed my torch, and he flashed the flash over there to get the image inside, because otherwise the chariot is very dark at night. So I got this wonderful picture. This, if I ever publish the book on Jagannath Puri, this becomes my cover shot. Okay, then this was another important image, because I've shot it from the sea. I capsized a couple of times, and I had an underwater camera those days, and I shot with the underwater camera. And as you know, the Jagannath Puri is on the east coast of India. It is one of the big religious pilgrimage places. So people, and it's a poor man's festival. I was equating it to Woodstock of poor people. You know, they're just people with so many expressions, and thought, look at this, for example. They are, you know, the whole trance and everything over there, sadhus and ordinary people from villages. Here's some people from upcountry, and you know, enjoying this sea breeze. And it's a fantastic place. The beaches are beautiful. Fishermen on the coast over there, while it's raining, they do this little fishing, like most. And this is one of my favorite images, which I call Alexander the Great. Actually, you know, it's a big tradition over there to come and they say mundan, or you know, they shave their hair off as an offering to God on early morning on the beach, kind of thing. So yeah, so this is how we were from there. What happens? I got into you know, experimenting on my own still life, and also what this is just basically experimenting for myself, and how this finally becomes a big campaign you'll see in the, as we go along. So this, I was experimenting with glass vases and all that are lying at home, color paper in the background and all that, and this turned out to be quite a popular series of glass graphics, as I called it. Then there seems to be a little bit of a lag in switching the images, but yeah, they will come on. So yeah, this is a saree campaign that I shot in Udaipur way back in 1980-81, and you know, those days we didn't have very well-known professional models and all that. There were a lot of them, but you know, we wanted a more natural thing. So these were some friends who, one was a banker, one was a lawyer, and you know, because they could understand, and we could, because we were friendly, I could direct them to, you know, come into a correct kind of a posture and all. And the reason I'm flopping, I'm going back and forth between fashion, still life, and other things, is because I want you to understand, which I'll touch upon a little later, is being a photographer does not mean that you need to be stuck to one style. I never did, and that's why I'm going to show you this, and we'll talk about that later. This is for a cigarette campaign. After this campaign became very, very popular, it won me a lot of awards, I stopped doing cigarette commercials, because I said, oh, what am I doing? I'm winning awards, I'm glorifying myself, I'm glorifying cigarette smoking. And so after that, I stopped shooting cigarette campaigns. So this was one of the early works of mine. And this had influence of some of the big American photographers who I went on to work when I went to the US in 82, 83. And during that period, I shot this Broadway show by Allan J. Lena, the guy who did Pygmalion and all these big plays on Broadway. So this was called Dance a Little Closer. And yeah, so I got a chance to shoot the color bit because they liked my color work. And of course, there was Avedon's assistant who was shooting the black and white bit. So yeah, it was good fun. There was a good collaboration with a lot of the photographers in New York those days. I spent a year in New York working on that. And on my return, I started working on a lot of experimental stuff. So this was one of my first garden campaigns. And mind you, this is still the celluloid, I mean, a film days, no digital. And this is done in camera, multiple exposure, double exposure kind of thing. So it had to be very precise. So I shot the girl on one format, that's 120, and then I shot the merging and the strokes. The strokes are, by the way, done by me. It's black and white strokes that I did, crayon on white paper, black crayon and white paper, and then how I merged it on a 4x5 camera so that, you know, we could get the right kind of size, proportion, and sharpness. So this was one of the first award-winning garden campaigns that I shot. And that also converted into film. Then here's, again, I'm switching back to something else. I'm just showing you that if you're a visual artist, a photographer, you should not create boundaries for yourself by saying I can shoot only glamour and fashion. It's all very well to say that, to go to party and have this kind of little bit of a attitude that I'm a fashion photographer. It's not that. You have to do everything. So this was a beautiful campaign. I still love it because I was just given one line. They said the Zen of motorcycling. It's about Castor Oil, the oil company, but they had a title saying Zen of motorcycling, and they said, how can we do it? They just load up 2 bikes in one of those tempo travelers or tempos, and we went down the coast to Alibag, and we spent a couple of days just shooting this, finding spots, and again, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right light. No Photoshop, no mucking around, just straight transparency, all shot on 35 film. And then once again, the famous garden campaign with Madhu Sapre. Madhu Sapre went on to become the runner-up of Miss World. She was the predecessor to Aishwarya and Sushmita, who will show up in a little while. So this was, now during this period, I had already finished shooting a lot of sharp images, and I was telling Garden, can I shoot some blurs? Can I shoot with a point-and-shoot camera? They got a bit nervous with the point-and-shoot camera. So I finished shooting this not on a point-and-shoot camera, but on a regular 35 millimeter. But I then devised a way of flashing it correctly to have this. These are all single shots. There's no double exposure. There's no manipulation. It's a straight transparency that came out of my camera. And so yeah, that's the fun part of it. Then this I went on to shoot for a very dear friend of mine who's a very big designer now in New York. A lot of you might have read about him, called Naeem Khan. He's the guy who used to design and dress up Michelle Obama for the 8 years that she was the first lady. So this was one of his catalogs that I shot for him in New York. And then this was another fashion campaign with Anu Agarwal. And you can see 3 different looks of Anu Agarwal, but this was for a store called Glitrati, and we had some of the leading designers, right, from James Ferreira to Shahab Durazi and Pallavi Jayakishan over there, and their outfits, and we had shot all in available light. Everything was done in available light. This one is one of my favorite calendar pictures, because the brief was very interesting. The brief was basically telling me that, can you create art out of construction rubble? So I said, yeah, that sounds very challenging. So bring me a rubble sack full of rubble and all that. So then we started collecting, props and other things and a few things. So I kind of sat and designed every shot with lighting and some props and some things added here and there, and colors, tones added. So not going to talk much technical stuff and how I created, but this is I'm just giving you an insight into my mind, how I work. Then there was the celebrities. I've done a lot of celebrity work. And by the way, that's young Sachin Tendulkar. He was 16 years old. And the lovely story is that, this is for a tailoring shop called Anjasan, who made lovely lines written by the great Raj Singh Ji Dongarpur, who was a great writer. And so he wrote the lines for, you go to see if I can find them, I'll post them, but the lines are great. He's written for everyone. And Sachin was 16 years old, and they forgot to bring his outfit. Can you believe it, for this kind of shoot? So he's wearing my shirt, which is an oversized shirt, which is hanging in the studio. So we said, let's just knot it up and make it like a beach wear and all that. And why is he laughing? Because we were asking him questions that how did he score? He had just finished scoring his first century, not his 50th, his first century. And we were asking him, and the way he answered these questions, like so innocently, yeah, 99, I saw the ball and it looked like punishing and I just hammered it. So it's a beautiful little story, and I captured him right there and he started laughing about that. And that's when I got that moment. Back again to some still life. This is the famous series that I did for 3 or 4 years, the Hong Kong Bank calendar. This used to be, always waited upon. Every year we had a different scheme. This one was on the maps, the old maps of India. So there's the Hooghly River map, Calcutta, then there's the Gujarat, and there's something else over there. And there's a 1 year, the following year we did chess pieces. 1 year we did just boxes of India, like jewelry box, turban box, gunpowder box, and all these kind of things. Then there's again celebrity campaigns. Ravi Shastri, he's a good friend. And I shot this Vimal campaign in south of England, because he was playing for Glamorgan County and he was a big rock star. He was like recognized everywhere we went. But we spent a good 10 days traveling around with him. Between his matches, we could shoot over there. So we had lovely, we had a great production team, and we had lined up things. We carried all these suits from India, and we went traveling, hopping along with him and shooting around the countryside. So that's what gave us this campaign. Okay, then the next, in the 90s, we brought in Deepak Malhotra as a model, but the stylist was Rohit Bal. You can see his little picture in the corner. And we started bringing in stylists and fashion designers, and also this was the early days, and this is the first campaign in the 90s where we brought big designers to start working on the thing, and the look all of a sudden changed. And then comes the campaign for me, which actually is my favorite. I'm just waiting for it to show up over here on my screen. Okay, so the Garden campaign, we went and shot this one. Okay, it came and went. Shantanu has started screen sharing. And sorry, guys, just a little. Hope I can see it. I don't know what's happening. I'm going to try again.
Hi, Shantanu. This is Madhun here. You're audible, so I think you can continue to speak.
Yeah,
We can see
I'll continue. I'll continue to talk until Siddhant. While we. Okay, yeah, there we are. I got the thing back now. Okay, so you can see this image. It's shot in the run of Kutch, and we did this campaign, beautiful campaign. You can see some of the images. This was like a desert in the flower was the theme, and so I created this thing. We wrapped them up, the saris and the girls, and colors of the desert kind of thing. Guess what? This campaign never ran. It was rejected because just then they realized that let's sign up Aishwarya Rai, and we had to shoot. And then she didn't have time to go back into the run of Kutch. It had become too hot. We shot this in the beginning of May. It was like 44 degrees in the shade. So we shot this there. And then, of course, Aishwarya Rai. So obviously, I had to start setting up everything in my studio after that. So Aishwarya's campaign and the film and other things that we shot after that was all shot in my studio in Bombay. Now, this is my favorite picture of Aishwarya Rai. Now, obviously, the client would never use it after paying her so much money. And so you can see her just through that little diaphanous sari. And I love this because it looks like a petal and she looks like wrapped up in a petal. And it's a single shot again. There's no other thing. It's just that the sari blew up in such a way and the lighting was such that you can see her face, but you can't see her completely. I love this shot of the thing. And obviously, we know that Garden was never going to use it. So it stayed in my collection. Okay, then back to some still life. This was another thing, and you can see the glass graphic. It's the same vase that I showed you in the beginning that I had experimented 10 years before. 10 years ago, I had experimented with this thing, and now this thing showed up, this HMT campaign. Rediffusion was the agency, and Arun Nanda, the head of Rediffusion, was not very happy with what was coming through as a campaign, and he said, can you create something? So I just went ahead, created, and came back with this campaign. I mounted it on yellow paper, and then that time the creative director Kamlesh Pandey gave us the headline saying wrist art, and it's fabulous. This campaign was quite a knockout, and it was spoken about. And by the way, this was shot on 35mm, no big fancy cameras, just 35mm with a macro lens. I had stopped it down all the way to f32 to get the sharpness of the thing. And a lot of people thought this is shot on a 8x10 in a large format. We had a debate until I showed them the slides, these slides, the actual photographs. Then comes back to some more celebrity work that I've been doing for fun's sake. This is all for Filmfare those days. Filmfare was the only leading magazine those days for celebrities. And then they used to bring me in for the annual issue. So these are all images that I've created for the annual issue. This is also for Times of India, for Femina, because these were both Femina Miss World and Miss Universe ladies, Aishwarya and Sushmita Sen. And what happened is both had to be shot separately on separate days, I think a few months apart. But they wanted to run a story of 10 images each. The designer was Shahab Durazi, one of my favorite designers. He does these beautiful ladylike outfits, and you can see we had a lot of fun in that. So because he had a black and white, a black kind of wardrobe, I said, let me play with black shadows, dark shadows, and see how it all works out. And it turned out really well. I love these shots. They're hanging right behind me as well. This was during a Vimal campaign and outtake, so we had the models with us, a whole bunch of them. I said, let's do an early morning shoot with the light coming in and banana leaf and all that fun stuff. That's once again Aishwarya from the earlier campaign at Tabu. We shot her in my studio. Once again, a mood thing. And by this time, I had switched away from flashlights, studio flash, what people use, the ones that go pop. I use continuous light. I love continuous light source to make it look more natural and daylighty. So this is also continuous light source again in my studio with Karishma, so make it look like the light streaming in from somewhere, kind of a thing. That's absolute natural light. One in my studio, and Ricky Martin and Ravi Tendon, we shot in a suite in the Oberoi. Ricky Martin was visiting as a Sony artist. And that's Madhu Sapre again. We were doing some image. I can't remember for what I was doing it, but yeah, that's she was sitting across my table at my studio. I've also been experimenting a lot with fine art. Now, what happens is fine art. This is when the digital era came in. Until the last one, until Ravina and Madhu Sapre, they were all celluloid on film. Now, this is where the digital started coming, and these, mind you, I've shot some of these basic plates on the iPhone, and then I started working on them. And this looks like I call them the primary nuns. They look like a whole lot of nuns walking to the church in primary colors. So I used to call them. So this is again shot on a mobile phone and then worked on in the post. This is showing you a diptych, what you can do with it. And there are some masks that I create by shooting on the mobile phone and then put them on. This is a straightforward shot, but I like it because the whole leaves, black leaves, and the flowers look white, and the light and shade that we work with. Now this is in my veranda, and this discoloration at the top, the gray, is just nothing but the reflection of the sky, which was a little more bluish than what it is now. But it looked like a watercolor painting, and the little dry thing that was lying there, twigs in my garden, I just picked them up and put them there, and it all looks like a watercolor. So what I'm trying to say is that a photographer needs to think beyond just commercial work. A lot of your work is appreciated, and you are appreciated as a photographer, as a visual thinker, only with your personal work. And this is some of my personal work that I've shown you. Now this is again shot on a mobile phone, still life at my house, and just found a big leaf, and there's a wooden matka, beautiful piece that I possess. And you just play around with objects. Then fashion with men, I've done a lot. I've done some of the leading brands, right from Raymond's to Gwalior suiting with Pataudi and Sharmila Tagore, and Digjam with Shekhar Kapoor, and all sorts of things. And then recently a friend of mine got me to shoot his new linen collection. And I said to him that let's not make it boring. Let's see if we can create a painting kind of feel. And he said, I'll make fun clothes and funky clothes. So, this we shot in Goa. And during this shoot, that's an important thing to mention. During this shoot, while I was shooting in Goa, is the whole idea of setting up the One School Goa came up. And that's when we decided I want to set up a school in Goa. So this is all shot in Goa. This is more of students' workshops. These are workshops that I conduct for the students. So we go out, shoot. There's a model visiting Goa. We asked her to come and work with us. We have great fun. And this is showing them how to mix available light and artificial light inside. This is out on the backwaters in Goa. There's this girl who's a big yoga person. You can see from her body. She turned around and said, I've got some great costumes. Let's work with that. So I said, lovely. So some students showing them how to do outdoors, mix it up, and what you can do. This is back in the studio days, a little earlier than the Goa days. But this is done with flashlight. This is not done with continuous light source. So yeah, and there's no Photoshop. These flowers that are stuck on the girl on this side, that's on a cloth which is hanging in front of her, and these flowers. Okay, so this is another one that I did in a tea shop, not just about 100 meters from our school. And I was trying to tell my students that how you can utilize a small space to an advantage. So we, mixed again the window light coming in with artificial light, and then played around with it. You can see a slight blur in the hands and other things. And yeah, then some of my commercial work, did some film posters for some of these guys. The one, two I shot, and Sings Up the Great. Plus, there are a lot more, but these are some of them that I wanted to show you guys. Great fun. They've got a different look. Now, this is available like photography, and why I've shown them this, the one on the outdoor one, I love completely because I have shot on entire moonlight. In fact, to find focus, my assistant had to put on the light from the mobile phone. So we were just coming back on the boat, and we said, let's see what we can get. And we got this, and this is complete moonlight. It's got a Mona Lisa kind of look to it, the whole landscape and all, because it just takes the color away when it's underexposed that way. And the highlight that's hitting the face is from a street lamp from far away. The other one is shot in a store, so that's the natural light. And then this is again my studio where I wanted to work on a very dark kind of image. And that's our school. That's our school in Goa. Yeah, it's got a interesting swimming pool, and yeah, that's the big studio. And so that's my last slide to tell you that the reason I teach is because I love to learn, and the more I teach, the more I learn. And I'm enjoying my thing. And believe me, guys, that I'm busier in the school than I was in my commercial life. Though I work almost 7 days a week, those days at my peak. But I feel I'm much busier here with the students. So let me say this is a wrap up of my presentation, and we'll now start talking about the various other aspects of photography that we said we're going to talk about. So that was a brief history and background of my work. So yeah, so here we go. So school and teaching, since the last slide was the school. So let me tell you a little bit about my school and why it came about. What happened is, while I was shooting in Goa, I felt, I started feeling that, okay, when am I going to give back? And my son was growing up, he wanted to become a photographer. He had options in front of him. He was, whether he wanted to become a culinary artist or whether he wanted to become a photographer, filmmaker, and follow my path. And he had friends, we talked. Then there are a lot of other people who used to come over and say that, hey, can you conduct workshops? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I said, yeah, we can do it. But I think I would be happier. I would be happier if I could, bring it under a roof, like a school, and then start, mentoring students. And I say, I really don't like the word teach, though I've used it because that's what we hear all the time, but it's more mentoring, it's more guiding. What we do is we give, in our school, the curriculum is based in such a way that we give them very basic and very good, deep technical and other theoretical knowledge within the first 2 or 3 months of them joining. And then what we do is we start challenging them. We start challenging them saying, go out on your own, go and shoot. We start with an exercise called observation because I want to see what they're seeing. And only then I can mentor them. I can't start mentoring them the way I want it because it's kind of a custom-made program for each student. Because what happens is every student sees a different. See, if I say to someone, go shoot a pink, anything pink. Now each one is going to go and shoot something different, and he's not going to shoot the same old thing. And I need to see what is that pink that he's seeing and how is he seeing it differently, and then you mentor them. You don't start. The Indian education system was, you either learn it this way or you learn it or get lost. You're not going to make it through the thing. So what we work towards mentoring the students in a way that is letting them grow. The whole idea is to let them grow. And we don't like to impose upon them, no, shoot it this way. This is what I'm telling you is right and all. So the first step is the student comes with the idea and the image, and then we start mentoring. See, our basic principle over here is that you don't click a picture. It's not about this finger taking a picture. The picture is created here. So it's about thinking a picture. That's what we tell students. Every student, first think a picture, then you think about it. We ask them to become inquisitive. Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the color that I want? Only then you will stand apart. Otherwise, if you're just going to use this to do shoot a picture, then you're going to look like everybody else, because everybody else has a finger and everybody else got a camera in their hand. They've got a mobile device which they can shoot a picture. So you just become like anybody else. And what's happening is it's becoming a bit of a rut. Now, the other day, I had a very interesting conversation with one of the students and his parent who had come over because the interviews were going on for the new batch. And I was asking a student, and whenever I ask a question, now this is a very important point I want to make. When the students come and when I interview each one, whether online or in person, I ask them, what is your ultimate goal? What do you want to do in photography? Invariably, 95% of them say fashion photography. Now, when I ask them why fashion photography, they look blankly. Like, what else is there in photography? Is what I can get the impression from their face. But next thing, if I ask them, okay, who are the fashion photographers you follow, Indian or international? They have no idea. So why did that fashion thing come in? It's, I think, just bragging rights. When you go out, you want to say, what are you doing? I'm a fashion photographer. They think it's a big thing. If the next question I say, suppose you don't make it as a fashion photographer, what will you do? They say wildlife photography. So look where it is from fashion to wildlife. You know, they're jumping the gun. Now, it's not their fault. These are the only two things that they have been exposed to over the last decade or so. Fashion, because there are fashion and glamour magazines coming at you from all corners of the street, big hoardings and all glamour, fashion and all that. And secondly, wildlife because of the big channels and Nat Geo and all that. But there's a hell of a lot between the whole lot. There's food photography, there's still life, there's interior architecture. You ignore that, you take it for granted that there's a great looking hotel. I just saw the shots of the interior and all that, but nobody thinks of how was it shot. It's a difficult task shooting interiors. It's a difficult task shooting food. There's a special way of lighting food. There's a special way of keeping the food, dressing it and all that. Our regular dal, roti and thing, I always start with a challenge for my students. First, you will shoot street food. Samosa leke aao, market se. Put them down and let me see what you think and how can you glorify that goddamn samosa or vada pav. And then we look at Western, because the Western dishes are all, you know, color coordinated. The chef is doing a lot of things. It's his artistry and then we are capturing it. But if you buy raw food and how can you make it look better is the challenge that we give our students. And we like to challenge everyone saying that take the simplest things and create something magical out of it and appetizing. So one of the things that we also tell the students, but we leave it to them, we don't impose upon them, is do not, my advice to all of them, including everyone in this country and in this world, to young photographers, is do not try and specialize. Because specializing meaning you have dug a little hole for yourself. You're not going to get out of it. And today's day and age, and today's exactly what's happening during the COVID thing. How many people can go out and shoot fashion? You can't. But you can all shoot food at home. You can all shoot a lot of other little stories. You can step out and shoot some great nature. But if you're stuck saying that, no, I can shoot only portraits and fashion, then you're stuck. So the reason I showed you my portfolio or Better Photography and Madhavan said, please show the variety of your work before we start talking, so that you get an idea that a good photographer does not need to know just one kind. In fact, he should know all kinds. A good photographer is a good photographer. He should be able to shoot anything and everything. You'll ask me, do I shoot wildlife? Yes, I do. I take a long lens out and shoot it. I might not be as passionate about wildlife as I would be about shooting fashion, glamour, or still life, or food. But yet, when I get a chance, when there's nothing to do, and when I know this is the season when these migratory birds are coming into the backwaters, which is not too far away from the school, I take a long lens and go and sit there in the evenings before sunset. There's a beautiful flock of these things coming in, and you then start thinking as an artist and not like a wildlife photographer. You're not sitting with a bazooka lens trying to get the eye of the bird. No, you want the atmosphere. You want to show what's happening. It's like a storytelling session with wildlife. It's not about the technical things like a lot of people talk about. Hey, look at the feathers and look at the eye. I got the very details in the eye. I've got the sharp thing in the beak. That's not wildlife. That is technical stuff. And there are a lot of photographers right now in the world, and there are a couple of them that I'm following on Instagram in India. Super work. They're doing beautiful artistic work, and every time I see a picture of theirs, I stop and watch it. I say, wow. Now, when I start thinking that, oh, I wish I could do a picture like that, it's him who's winning, because just about anyone, and I mean, he's got 60,000 likes on every picture. That's not a joke. And on wildlife, I mean, it's not pretty girls. It's just about pretty animals, and he shoots it in a different way: atmospheric, rain, the wild cats playing around, and all that. That is there are a couple of my friends who are from advertising who switched to this wildlife thing. There's my cinematographer who used to work with me quite a lot. He takes time off for about 60 days in a year and goes to Botswana just to shoot, and he shoots brilliant stuff with the phenomenal skies with these animals over there. So that is what the atmosphere of wildlife is. It's not just the. I mean, if you guys are anyone here listening, you want to take down names. There's David Yarrow is a British photographer who changed the whole look and brought fine art photography into wildlife photography, and he started selling accidentally his prints for wildlife. And he jokingly just threw a price at someone that I'll charge you 5,000 pounds for this print, black and white big print that they were making in a lab. And the guy who was there, he said, I'll buy it. Now all of a sudden it struck him that 5,000 pounds I can sell a goddamn print. As I better do this more often. And now he's become a great wildlife fine art photographer, and he's talked about he's egging on students at Oxford and Cambridge, saying that, look, you guys should get out there. You got the knowledge, you got the wealth of knowledge and the experience to go and study wildlife. It's not about just taking a long camera and sitting in the bushes and wearing a camouflage and shooting. That's not what it is. You got to see him, David Yarrow's work, and you got to see his films. How he sets up his camera, where he puts it. There have been times, there's a lovely documentary where the lioness has come and picked up his Nikon with the lens and walked away, and he's found it only 2 days later lying in the bushes. So, all these things are what make you stand apart. The reason I'm giving you all these things is that is what, after studying all these guys, that's what we are bringing to our style of education in our school. And then moving on with that now dovetails pretty beautifully. I mean, we might have been a bit isolated for the last 6 years, but in the last 2 years or so, people have started thinking like what we have been saying for the last 6-7 years. And now the new education policy that the government has just launched, it's fantastic, because it's talking about exactly that. The creative processes are the most important in a human being's life. Whether you're going to go into math, you're going to go into engineering, or you're going to go into medicine or anything else, art is important. Creative thinking is important, whatever you do, and that is the whole game. And I love the new education policy, because what they've done is they've brought in vocational education as a very, very important peg. And the other day I heard the Prime Minister talk about it, and his vision seems to be absolutely brilliant. He says that you can start with engineering 2 years down the road. If you think you are getting bored, you must have the right and a choice. And if you think photography is your calling, go for it. If you think after 6 months you still want to continue and come back to engineering, you should be able to do it. So that's what the new education policy. And at the same time, you can do 2 courses, which is the most brilliant thing, because you could be pursuing engineering or your accounts or your medicine, and yet you could be doing a great course in photography or graphic arts or interior design or whatever you want. And so that's the creative side of it. And believe me, if our newer generation sticks to thinking creatively, whether it's whatever subject they're doing, I'm not just saying photography and other things, but if they just stick to being creative in whatever they decide to do, we will have more sympathy towards creative thing, and we will stop being jugadus. Right now, we have grown up on a generation that we are jugadus, and we've been told that is the way to do it. No, that's not the way to do it. Just be a little more kind to yourself. I'm saying go deeper into the creative aspects of life. Do not become a jugadu like the earlier generations. Well, that's all passé and done. We cannot do that, And I keep telling my students, don't take shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. Like one of the things of shortcuts when I'm talking about it, the reference I'm making to is, if they shoot a bad picture, in the beginning the students said, I can fix it in the post. I said, no, that's not the way to do it. That's being a jugadu. What I'm trying to say is that take a great picture and improve it. If you're doing, if you are great at Photoshop, or if you're great at any other post-production facilities, take a great picture and make it better. But don't take a bad picture and try to resurrect it through post-production. That's the worst thing you can do. And that's what I mean by being a jugaadu, because you're saying, screw it, I'll just press the bloody button, take the picture, we'll baad mein dekhenge kya hota hai. No, we don't allow them to do that. That's one thing we step down on them heavily. That first create a great image, let's see, and then let's take it further. So that's one of the things that we keep inculcating in our students, that there are no shortcuts. And the other thing is, one of the other important things while I'm talking about this thing is, it just shows me how much passion you have. And it's all about passion. Photography is nothing about technical knowledge. Let me tell you again and again, technical thing, the cameras and the new systems and YouTube and everyone has overtaken technical thing. You can learn it anywhere. You don't need to come to me to learn or to our school to learn technical stuff, because and it's changing every 3 months. New thing is coming, new thing. So you just have to keep yourself abreast how to use that goddamn machine. And I still have a problem using this new digital camera, because I was used to the knobs. That's why I've switched to a certain make which has got knobs on top, the old-fashioned way, and it's beautiful because I can still control my thing, and I can still run from my shutter speed to say I wanted the image darker, and because the viewfinders become so good nowadays. So you got all the great weaponry right now with post-production, with shooting equipment. So just create the goddamn good picture. That's about it. So how do you do it? Think, look at a subject, look at the road, look at the clouds, look at this thing. Even if you do not get the shot, you want to sit there and think about how do I get a better one. Think about it and then shoot. Don't shoot random. You're not training to be a paparazzi. Paparazzi, there's a different style of shooting, because you have to get that goddamn moment that's happening in front of you. Somebody is taking a shot at somebody with a gun or something is happening over there. You need to just really slam the camera shutter and get that shot. That's different. I'm talking about creative photography, where you create. That's where the world is moving towards. And having said that, we're talking about the future of photography. In one word, it's never been better, and it's going to get even better. Because, around the time when we set up the school, 2013, 2014, we were looking at the numbers Google was sending out. Per day images coming up. And there was a time when they said in March 2013, there were 2 billion images put up. Now it's 2 billion images almost a day that are coming up. So think of what's happening. So photography has become a language that everyone understands. You do not need the written word over there. So thus it's one of the most powerful languages of communication. Let me give you an example. Do you really choose food by looking at the menu? I bet not. If there's a great picture accompanying that menu, you are more likely to kind of pick the picture, because you eat with your eyes first. It goes into your mouth later. So it's the eyes that drive you to a great food setting and all that. And once you and everything else follows. It's all about the eyes. I mean, when you are on a certain site, whether it's Amazon, Flipkart, or anybody else, what do you want to do? You want to see what you're buying, right? It's not about just reading a description and buying it. Description comes later. So photography is required for every goddamn step in life. Tell me, where can you escape an image in today's world? You cannot. Even your teaching style has to be with this thing. And all over the world, people are talking about, all over the world, educationists, some very bright scholars who have been around for many, many years. They've been talking about the strength of visual images. What we've seen now during this pandemic is a lot of people have pulled out some of the old images and memoirs and all that. And it's been doing great stuff because they're talking to the people. So yeah, I think it's all about wanting to create an image, and that's the passion you have to have. And I still have that passion in me. I mean, even if I teach, it's a good example. I lead by to the student. My students are checking my Instagram page, and the other day I sat for about 3 hours waiting for a flower to open. There's this very famous thing called Brahma Kamal, which is a rare occurrence. Once in a year or 2 years, it opens on after sundown. and it's the most beautiful. It's on my Instagram page, and I've got it in 4 stages. Plus, I shot the time lapse. I've not had the time to put the film up of time lapse, but it is the most phenomenal. I mean, I saw that and I got mesmerized by the whole thing. I shot details. I shot everything in that. No, this is passion. And why should you'll say you've been shooting glamour and other things? What is the goddamn flower you're chasing? But it is important to have that, passion to create great images. So yeah, I think on that note, I think instead of me blabbering away, I'm going to ask Madhavan to step in and see if there are questions coming in, or he might have some thoughts to cross-question me. That might be a good idea.
Thank you so much, Shantanu. It's been a pleasure listening to you. One of the things that just crossed my mind while I was listening to you was, hey, I need to be back in school. I need to go back and learn photography, because that's the thing about the thing. The learning never ends, and I never got a chance to actually study photography formally.
Right.
As a lot of photographers our age, we now got a chance to study photography. So
Yes.
today is a wonderful time especially for young students who want to study photography. There are education courses available. There are schools like yours which are available. It is not like it was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. You yourself mentioned that it was after a while that you actually went to seek something in photography and study something separately in photography after you started your career in it. So I think that's a good takeaway. But we are very, very short of time now. So my request to all of you who have questions is to please send across the questions. We have captured your questions. If you put it on the Q&A tab on pmglive.in, we have captured it. But Shantanu, of course, if we start talking, it will continue. It will go on for the next hour or so. But that is something that we really don't have the time for at this point of time. We have to wind up the webinar.
Right.
And so let me thank you formally for this.
Right. Sure. I mean, anytime. I mean, it's always been a pleasure to talk to you guys, and been always ready to answer any questions that might come up in the future.
Yeah. So we will compile the questions and we'll send them to you, and you can perhaps answer it separately. So that we
sure.
can do.
That will be a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Shantanu. So just to wind up the entire session, let me also say that the conclave will continue. That is the Objective Students Education Conclave 2020 by HP and Intel in association with Better Photography will continue with many other eminent speakers in the following 2 weeks on a daily basis, but from 6:30 p.m. onwards from tomorrow. Please register for the webinar at pmglive.in. That is pmglive.in. That is something that will allow you to ask your questions to the mentor directly as well. Thank you all for watching. This is our second session on the Objective Students Education Conclave. We have another 12 to go. Thank you for watching and have a great evening ahead.
Great. Thanks, everyone.